Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received, and the translation of that message, it reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I am a man, a businessman. I started my business and I have been running this business here in South Africa. I used to be a truck driver. I came to South Africa. This was like a very long time ago when I came here to South Africa, and I started staying with one of my brother who was also working for this other Indian man who had a fruit and veggie shop. So this Indian man, he said that he wanted me to become his gardener. I became his gardener. After I had worked, I returned back home and I got a driver's license. When I returned back to South Africa, I told him, and soon after that, then I started doing some piece jobs because I was now staying in that Indian community. There was one man who was an Indian who had a truck. He used to drive his own truck. It was a man truck, but it was one of those old models. So I would go around with him, tying the ropes, the tents on the trailer as his assistant. This I would do Saturday and Sunday when I was not going to work. Eventually, he would let me drive his truck until he spoke with my boss so that I can work with him on a permanent basis. That is how I became a truck driver. I worked for this man when there was no one who was willing to work for him, until he managed to buy 20 trucks. And after he had bought these new model trucks, the automatic ones, then there were a lot of people that now wanted to work for this company. Since I did not have proper papers, there was always that possibility that one day I was going to lose my job. Eventually, there were other organizations that came and said that they did not want to see Zimbabwean or any foreign truck drivers working for that company, and my boss had to let me go. I started struggling, to tell you the truth. Then I went to Mozambique. I was desperate because what had happened was, when I used to work for this man, I thought that life was always going to be this good. I never knew that there was a day that was going to come when I would be out of a job. And this made me to go to Mozambique to get some charms so that I can quickly get a job. I was then given some charms. When I returned back, that was when I started working for Heyman's Call. I was a manager at that company, so I would use these charms. But then there was this other Zimbabwean driver. This man, he was from the White Garment Prophet Church. When I was on my leave, not going to work, he took one of the pickup that I was using, this baggy. He was sent to go and collect a gearbox for one of the truck. When he was sent to collect a gearbox, I think that he left some of his prayers in that baggy that I was using as the manager. And when I returned back to work, I was then fired. I was so desperate. I could not return back to Zim. I said, let me return back to Mozambique. When I returned back to Mozambique, then the traditional healer from Mozambique said to me, this means that you are supposed to start your own company. I'm going to give you charms that are going to help you so that you can start your own company. I returned back to South Africa and we started working. I was making a lot of money. I would go out and I would return back with 100K, 200K, so much that my wife started to ask me, where was I getting all of this money from? Eventually, I told my wife that this was what had happened. I had gone to Mozambique to get these charms. I told my wife after things were now flowing in our life. We then returned back to Mozambique because I had been told that blood was supposed to be spilled. What I've since discovered about these traditional healers is that these traditional healers, they are only friends with you the first time when you enter into their shrine. You will be friends with them, but the moment that a traditional healer gives you some charms that will require blood later on, then you will see their true colors. They will never be friends with you. This healer from Mozambique, we used to be the best of best friends. But soon after me and this healer started talking about blood sacrifices, he showed me his true colors, that he does not care about my family. He does not care about anyone. He only cares about satisfying the topologies that he used in his shrine. He told me that the blood of my daughter was needed at his shrine, and I could not accept that. I spoke with my wife about this issue. We returned back to Mozambique, where I was given a task to look for a woman that I was going to date. When I came back to South Africa, I went on Facebook and I spoke with this other woman, and because of the money that she saw that I had, she agreed. She was also from Zim, but staying in Durban. Me and my wife, we drove from Joburg. We went to Durban for the sleepover, but I left my wife at a hotel. This woman did not even know that I had traveled with my wife. I went to the location where she was staying, and I spent a weekend at that location with him, and I used her in the ritual. Unfortunately, this lady, she passed away last year in November. Soon after that, we started to see the ghost of this woman. It was my wife who first saw the spirit of this woman when she had gone out shopping at the mall. When she returned back, she saw that the gate, it was opened automatically before she could even press the remote control, and she saw the spirit of this woman, and she called me. I returned back home and I saw that this was what was happening. I would also see the ghost of this woman. We returned back to Mozambique. When we went there, we were given more charms. So it was really painful for me what was happening, because as long as the driver is behind the wheel, I am supposed to be standing holding a clay pot so that my trucks can make money. My trucks can never break down, and I can keep on making money. I have since instructed all of my drivers that they are not supposed to drive at night, because there were days when I would spend the rest of the night just standing holding that clay pot, making sure that my trucks won't have an accident, no breakdowns, and I can keep on making money, my business running smoothly. So my trucks, they don't travel at night. So this traditional healer, he then told me that I made a mistake. There was a horn, a cow's horn that I was given, and my wife, she touched that cow's horn, even though it was never meant to be touched by a woman. So when we started to see that there were things that were going wrong in our life, we then returned back to Mozambique. We are now at stage 1, where I was last year before I had sacrificed to that woman. The blood of my daughter is needed, and before November this year, my daughter is supposed to die. And this traditional healer is saying that if I do not want my daughter to die, I am supposed to sacrifice 4 women. I am supposed to sacrifice 3 women that have never slept with a man before, and 1 woman who is a married woman. I am supposed to sacrifice 4 of these women, and I do not want to be this evil, because all that I wanted when I went to Mozambique, get some charms so that I can look for a job, so that I can be able to take care of my family. I never expected that things were going to be like this. From the outside, I am someone that looks like he's enjoying his life. I have brand new trucks that I have bought. My business is working really well, but behind the scenes, sometimes I don't sleep. So I need advice. Should I sacrifice these 4 women? I do not want to touch my daughter. I do not want my daughter to die, but I've been told that if I do not want my daughter to die, then there is no option. I have to sacrifice these women that I will be dating. When you post my story, please tell me. I'll be following through in the comment section. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear brother. Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world.